Hi everybody, I'm Clive, Camillo's second son, from what we know. My last moments with my father were here just up the hill, and I had just made a decision to move to Colorado after many years in California, and we had a couple of scotches up at his house, and I had a big trailer. It was about 30 feet long that my older brother Craig had given me to drive, and then a moving truck that was probably a 20-ton moving truck. So I was out in the back parking lot trying to get it moving at 1 o'clock in the morning because my father and I had been drinking, and I had some friends down here eating here at Ortega, and they met me in the back of the parking lot, and there was two of us trying to get the truck and maneuver it out of where we were, and it was parked in such a way that it was so long that I couldn't get the truck out. So it was a very Laurel and Hardy scene where I was in the driver's seat and someone was in the rearview mirror going, turn this way, turn that way, and I'm screaming out the window, you're not in the right fucking place, like move over there. And I think it took about 30 minutes for me to get the truck going back and forth to actually get in it and drive away. And by that time, I was standing and I said to my partner, Guy, I said, you know, my dad's probably been sitting up at that balcony for about an hour watching me laughing. And no sooner did I said that, this little head pops up from the balcony with a shot glass at 1:30 in the morning, and he was sitting on the balcony watching me. And he heard me and he says, son, I wasn't laughing you at all, he said. He said, have a safe trip, have a fantastic trip, and God bless you, and I'll see you. He wanted me to get back into my art, and he said, you know, I just really want you to be honest with yourself, and when you get out there, I want you to get into your work, and I really want you to do it. And he says, and if you ever have any doubts about what you're doing, he says, you got to do what I did when I worked at Kennington in the 80s, and I was in New York, and I was sitting in this showroom, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and sometimes I was confused, and I second-guessed myself. He said, so I would get a mirror out, and I would hang it on the wall. He says, and I'd get a bottle of scotch, and I'd pour myself a drink, and I would look in the mirror and say to myself, so what do you think of that? What do you think of that, eh? What do you think of that? He says, and every time I did that worked, because I was, you know, and he said, I'd get back to work and my creative head would flow and things would happen, and things would start moving from that point. So needless to say, for the first few months from July till September, I was sitting looking in a mirror at 2 o'clock in the morning, drinking scotch and saying, what do you think of that? So number one was I'm a Glaswegian. I was born in Glasgow, Scotland, to parents of Irish, Italian, and Scottish roots, which means that after 5 pints of Guinness and a few shots of Macallan 18, I begin to resemble a leprechaun on crack with an overwhelming desire to mate with a spaghetti monster. I pluck the hairs that grow on the surface of my nose. Before their marriage, my mother was a seamstress, and my father worked in a glass beveling factory in Scotland. He credits this horrible job for the incredible baritone voice he developed, as the deafening sounds of the grinding machines allowed him to rehearse Mario Lanza tunes for Granny Granelli. To escape the great haggis famine of the 60s, my father stole 4 sets of bagpipes from the prop shop at the Old Globe Theatre in Glasgow where he worked, and the whole family jumped into the Clyde Canal and we drifted out to sea. We survived on Scotch meat pies and iron brew for a month on the cold Atlantic before floating down the St. Lawrence River and landing in Montreal, where my younger brother was born in Montreal and Craig was born in Toronto. I enjoy turning the lights off sometimes, lighting candles and pretending I am a famous tenor by singing along to Luciano Pavarotti CD. By grade 2, I had developed a rather strange multicultural dialect, a cross between Pepe Le Pew, Oliver Twist, and Topo Gigio. To this day, I still get asked where you're from. I'm grateful that I don't talk like Sarah Palin, who really should be auditioned for the return of the wood chipper, Fargo 2. The inspiration to become an artist was a result of spending my childhood in department store windows handing my father staple guns, pins, and invisible wire during his time as a window display artist in Montreal and New York. I buried my art collection many years ago because he says it wasn't quite museum quality yet, so I dissected all my art and my chair collection, and I buried it at various locations across the U.S. on a road trip and vowed not to dig it up for 20 years. It's coming up next week, I think. My own creative lunacy was formed by watching my father in the late 60s from inside store windows disrupting the robotic pedestrian movement of the busy sidewalks by spontaneously performing some kind of Chaplain meets divine one-man show with props and clothes from the store on the street. After the sudden death of my baby brother and my mother's discovery that Dad had a wandering penis, she packed her bags. She packed our bags and we moved from Montreal to Los Angeles with 100 horse. I took my kilt and snowshoes off in West Hollywood. This could surely be a better musical number than I Left My Heart in San Francisco. All of us boys studied fencing in Hollywood with Ralph Faulkner, the star of the original 1935 Three Musketeers at his theatrical school in Hollywood. Errol Flynn, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and Basil Rathbone and Ronald Cohen were some of his lesser-known students. When we were Boy Scouts, we used to go to the Boy Scouts of Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard, Troop 365. It was the Boy Scouts of Hollywood, kind of an oxymoron. And Selma Avenue at the time, right behind Blessed Sacrament on Sunset, was a male prostitution strip there in the 60s when we went. Right, Mario? You went with us to the Boy Scouts. And my mom would drive us in the car after school, and we'd get out, we'd drive along Sunset, and we'd make that left, and right behind Selma was all male prostitutes out there, and my mom would pull in the car, and we'd all be sitting in the back with our little uniforms on, and she'd say, "If any of you ever turn out like that, I'll kill myself!" And I really thought they were all just earning their Eagle Scout badges at the time, so I was terrified to even, stay in it. And this goes back as a confused teen with overactive testosterone. I had a deprived libido, and I found myself actually contemplating the adventures of being a male booker to make enough money to travel to Europe and attend art school in London. And so I was kind of delusional in my desperation to become a cross between Tintin and John Holmes. So I took a busboy job instead. I never understood why my Jewish neighbors in Hollywood growing up in West Hollywood wouldn't buy my plastic Virgin Mary wall sculptures I sold door to door. My first day of Catholic school, our first day of Catholic school at St. Ambrose, my father thought it wise to send all of us to school in full and lederhosen, which to this day, many years later, he told me I wanted you boys to be respected. Well, I can really relate to the Elephant Man. I met a girl there who I was dating named Irma Bombeck, and Irma Bombeck was wearing these skin-tight jeans, and we were walking down the street with my father one day in Gastown, and Irma was from Trinidad, very voluptuous, and she wore these white jeans, and although they were really hip, they thoroughly accentuated her ripe non-Caucasian derriere. So my dad, of course, had his hand on it most of the time we were walking down the street. And we were walking down the street, and a passing car of mutated testosterone rednecks showed up, and John Edenbreed throws a beer bottle through our way and yells, "Damn, did you fucking paint those pants on?" Suddenly Irma felt like her sins were laid before her, and she was banished from the Garden Eden forever, and she never returned to the church at all. So my last little thing here I'd like to say is, now I'm lost, okay. There was a brief time during the early 70s, my mother was working for Priscilla Presley, and my father designed the store for them, and we spent a lot of time at Lisa's private Guantanamo Bay in Beverly Hills swimming when we were kids. And one day she came running down the hall screaming, "Clive, Clive," and Lisa, I was kind of startled, and I walked out, and in her hand, I came out of her bedroom where she had been listening to her jukebox full of daddy tunes, and met her at the door, and in her hand was a copy of the famous book, The Joy of Sex by Alex Comfort. This is a true story. And that she had retrieved from her mom's bedroom. Well, Lisa was about 6 and I was about 12, and I took the book from her and I tried to explain to her that her mother didn't have sex, and that she was an immaculate conception, and it was absolutely impossible. So just take the book and grab that flame of whatever it is inside you and swallow it every morning and every night. And God bless my father for giving me that.